Okay, so I think many of you have probably seen my face or at least seen my name around. I am Lisa Germany, or in Facebook, I am the Lisa Dack as well. And I'm the trails and the content manager for Destination Arctic Circle. And one of those aspects of my job is to manage or try to manage the Arctic Circle Trail. So we're just going to run through this today. Some of it is the same as last year, but there should be some new stuff as well this time around. At a glance, you're probably all aware of this. The trail is somewhere between 160 kilometers and 200 kilometers long, depending on exactly where you stop and start. There are two routes, which is the northern route and the southern route, and then various extensions. We estimate there's about 1,200 hikers per season, so each summer. And, you know, as we keep saying, it's an extremely remote wilderness trail. So everybody must be prepared for that. Management-wise, it's me. So there is no ACT team. It's literally me. And this is only part of my job. I work on it less than half time. So we get quite a lot of emails come into the Arctic Circle Trail email address saying, you know, dear ACT team, yeah, you're talking to the entire team right now. We have no access to the trail except by foot during the summer. I mean, there are a couple of access points, but for the majority of it, we don't have any access, which means that we cannot get out there very easily to do work on the trail. There's no set budget for trail maintenance, including, you know, paying people to help us do stuff. So we have very, very, very little money for this trail. There is a small budget for essential hut maintenance. That's just the huts, and it's mostly about garbage collection during the winter. And essential maintenance. So, you know, not nice maintenance, but just, you know, absolutely critical maintenance. And that budget is actually managed by the municipality, not by us. We, of course, collaborate with the municipality and we let them know what our priorities are, but it's up to them exactly what gets done. And so we have been asking for donations the last few years. And last year we got 58,205 Danish kroner, or about 8,000 euro, 8,000 US dollars, from 66 donors. So remember, there was 1,200 hikers, 66 of them donated. And to give you some context, it takes 25,000 Danish kroner last week to do one trip with two people across the Arctic Circle Trail to check the huts. So while I'm incredibly grateful for all of those who donated last year and the year before, and, you know, this sounds like a lot of money, given the cost that we have here in Greenland, it's actually very, very little money. So any opportunity you have to donate once you've finished the trail, that would be fantastic. Okay, so one of the new things is literally this morning, I have updated the front page, the homepage of the Arctic Circle Trail official website. And before, it didn't have quite as much information on it. It just sort of linked off further into the website. Now I've tried to put a lot more of the information up front. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you briefly what that looks like. So what I've done is, up the top, it more or less stays the same, although this gray bar here is actually the critical pieces of information that you're going to need. So all of this is critical, obviously, but these are things that we need you to do. This is for reading, this is for doing. And then down here, I've kind of put up front that there is no ACT team. And so, you know, when things don't necessarily happen as quickly as we want, there is a reason for that. It also highlights one of our key issues, which is people not behaving responsibly on the trail. And then it goes into different areas. So the first thing that I'm going to show you a little bit later is they were asking you to assess whether the trail is right for you. And so that is what this first section is all about. So before you book anything or start exploring any further, do the assessment quiz to see whether the trail is right for you and you have the right experience. The next section is to plan. So, and these links here go into the website a little bit more, and they show you, they go directly into the relevant pages in there. And I'm going to show you this interactive trail map, which again is new, in a second. The next step, prepare. So this again points directly to the relevant pages within the site. And you have register your trip, which again, I'm going to show you a little bit more about in a sec. Then on the trail, everything is about leave no trace. And I will be talking through that. And then after you've finished your hike, we would really, really appreciate if you follow up with us in these following ways, which is about the donations, it's about completing the trail feedback, sharing your experience, and entering the photography competition. And then down the bottom here, I've got the latest webinar. So I'll replace this last year's summer webinar with this one once we've got the recording finalized. So this is the new homepage. The other main things that people are now using, according to our feedback, is the Cicerone guide or the Paddy Dillon guide. But I just wanted to point out that that is quite out of date now. So the stage-by-stage descriptions are still kind of useful, but it was last updated in 2019. It may have been reprinted since then, but the information is from 2019. This website is where you get the latest information from. And then many of those who speak German also have this German guide, which I've never seen, but which has got to be more than 10 years old now. So just again, that information is not current. This is the most current information you're going to find is on this particular website. There is a book published in the Czech language this year, and there is a book published in Polish last year, which are kind of a mixture of kind of a guide, but more like a personal experience type thing. But if you are from the Czech Republic or from Poland, or if you speak those languages, then you might want to be checking those out as well. Who's the trail for? So I said that this is kind of something new, because we do find every year that we have a kind of a distressingly large number of people on the trail that, in our opinion, really shouldn't be on the trail. They don't have the right experience to do the trail safely and successfully. And so when you click into that, it'll just take you to a Google form, because I wanted to make it fancy, but we have no money, so this is what we've got. And it will ask you a series of 7 questions. So the first one being about your previous experience. And you have the option of saying, yes, I have, hiked previously a long distance trail carrying everything I have. So you can click here, or no, I haven't. And then depending on what you answer, it will take you through to a response to that. So the response gives you just a little bit of information. If the answer is yes, it usually includes a safety tip just to keep in mind. And then it also includes a couple of links down here that, again, direct you back into the website itself for more information about that. If you check no, then it'll say, well, you might want to rethink this idea and get more experience in whatever this particular question is. Again, we have recommendations here about how you might acquire these skills, and then again, back into the website here for further information about it. So why are we asking you to self-assess? Well, one of the things is your own safety. So we don't want you to get injured or lost, basically. And as you can see, there are some pretty significant river crossings on this trail. So if you don't know how to cross rivers safely, that's an issue. The trail is fairly well marked, but there are some sections of it, and certainly the southern route is not. And so if you don't know how to navigate, then that's going to cause problems. We built this so that you could do a self-assessment to see whether you would be safe on the trail. The next thing is for your enjoyment. So every year I see people on the trail with these enormous backpacks, and I just can't help thinking to myself that must be just really, really, really unpleasant hiking. So by reading through the website and by doing this self-assessment, you kind of start to get a bit more of a feel for the types of challenges that you're going to face on the trail. And if you're not ready for those challenges, for example, bugs or snow in the middle of summer, then, you know, your enjoyment level is going to vary. And we want you to enjoy the trail. It's an amazing trail. We want you to enjoy it. So by self-assessing and by reading the website, you have a better opportunity to make sure that you understand what you're getting into. And then also for our own resources. So again, you know, just to reiterate, I'm it, and we have no money. So this goes back to the previous two as well. So we have very, very, very limited rescue services. Here we've got one of our helicopters here. But essentially our search and rescue services in Greenland are extremely limited. You can read about that on the website as well. And honestly, their time cannot be taken up by rescuing ill-equipped hikers. You have to have the experience so that you don't overstress our search and rescue capabilities. If you don't follow leave no trace principles, you know, if you don't carry out your trash, carry out your toilet paper and stuff like that, then that's going to impact not your enjoyment, but everybody else's enjoyment, because they don't want to see your garbage or your used toilet paper. And it's also going to impact safety, because, you know, if you leave that stuff out in the backcountry, then that has the possibility of contaminating the environment, which then of course makes it less safe for everybody. And if you don't follow leave no trace when it comes to wildlife encounters, then that sets that up to be an issue going into the future as well for everybody. So by going through this self-assessment, it sort of puts you in better stead to figure out whether this trail is actually right for you. Now, if you've been around for a while with the Arctic Circle Trail Facebook group in particular, you've heard me talk about this a lot. But our biggest issue on the trail is trash and toilet paper. So leave no trace is really, really important. What we're asking you to do is please carry out all of your trash. Don't use the bins. So there are bins out there at some of the huts. I've been trying to get them removed for the last couple of years. But again, our winters have sort of been a bit all over the place, and winter is the only time that we can do that. So currently there are still bins on the trail. Please do not put your garbage in them. If you pick up garbage on the trail, by all means use the bin, but do not put your own garbage in there. You've already done the hard bit by eating all the food, which is the heaviness. So just pack out the packaging, please. The other thing is, please don't leave it near the hut. This was the mess left at Naramak at the end of last season, and it was just disgusting. It was just people had filled up garbage bags that they'd found somewhere with trash and just left it beside the hut. And then either the foxes or the wind or, you know, something got into it, and there was just garbage everywhere. So please don't do it. Please carry it out with you. It's not heavy. You've done the hard work. There are also some huts that have these barrels nearby. Again, please do not use the barrels. Again, this is something that I'm trying to get removed. Don't put it in the barrel, because what happens is that the wind picks it up and blows it all over the ground. And then that means that I have to go out and pick all this up, or quite often, one of your fellow hikers actually spends some time collecting all this trash and trying to dispose of it appropriately. Just if everybody does the right thing and if everybody takes care of their own trash, then these problems go away and the whole experience is much more pleasant for absolutely everybody on the trail. And lastly, please don't leave it in the hut. This is your responsibility. You know, your garbage is your responsibility. Don't leave it in the hut. That's the trash. That's the empty packaging and all the rest of it. But then we also have people leaving food in the huts. Now, these are just open bags of, I don't even know what, various bits of muesli and stuff like that. Please don't leave that in the hut. You know, it's, you know, you bring it into the trail, please take it out of the trail. Nobody is going to eat that because it's opened. Nobody has a clue how long it's been sitting there, etc., etc. Please do not leave excess food in the huts. These packages here, of course, are still closed, and that's, well, better. But again, rather than leaving them in the huts where, in theory, everybody has enough food anyway, please take them to Kangerlussuaq or Oqummiannguaq, or either end of the trail, and leave them with any excess gas you've got at your accommodation. That's going to be far more useful to both hikers and locals who can then pick it up at either end of the trail than it's going to be if it's just stuck in the middle of nowhere in a hut. Please don't leave food in the huts. Also, don't leave gas canisters in the huts, even ones that still have gas in them. Again, that's far more useful if it's at Sisimiut or if it's at Kangerlussuaq. In the middle of the trail, everybody should have enough gas, and so they don't need gas in the middle of the trail. So certainly if you've got empty gas canisters, do not leave them there. They are trash, so take them to the end of the trail. And if they do have a bit of gas left in your canister, again, it's no use in the middle of the trail. Take it to the end of the trail, deposit it at your accommodation, and then hikers or locals can pick them up and make use of them from either end. But every year we find this, and it just doesn't make any sense. Every year we end up with garbage bags full of empty and half-empty gas canisters that we collect from the huts along the trail. I'd love it if next summer, or if the end of next season, we did not have this situation. It's far more useful at Sisimiut and Kangerlussuaq, so please take it to the end of the trail. And finally on this, toilet paper. Please carry out all of your used toilet paper, your wet wipes, and your sanitary products. If you turned up here and saw this, you would be disgusted, yeah. So please don't be the person that does this so that the next person that comes along, which in this case was me, is disgusted. You know, every year, one of the biggest complaints about the trail that we receive through the feedback is toilet paper on the trail. Somebody has to be doing it, so just please don't let it be you. It's not difficult. It's your toilet paper. It's your body. It's your waste. You need to be able to deal with it. We're not asking you to take the poop out. We're asking you to bury that away from any water. What we're asking you to do is just bring the used toilet paper out. I don't want to have to come across here and clean this up, which I have done. This was how much I collected within 20 meters of that cairn. It was staggering how much toilet paper there was around that cairn. And to carry it out, all you need to do is have a heavy-duty Ziploc bag or two, double bag it, wrap it with duct tape or something if you don't want to see what's inside it, and then attach it to the outside of your pack. It's not difficult. And ladies in particular, if you want to reduce the amount of toilet paper you use, then I can suggest investing in a pea cloth. These cut down the amount of toilet paper that you use enormously and have been highly recommended by a lot of hikers. Okay, so enough of that. Another aspect of leave no trace is to, basically leave no trace on the environment. So to follow, heavily trodden paths, already established paths. So please follow the marked trail. As you can see here, there are sections of the trail that are quite waterlogged. Okay, this was a particularly wet year, but this is true no matter what year you do the trail. So please stick with the trail wherever possible. You can see it coming in there on the top right. And because that's what helps us protect the wilderness. If you don't do that, then you end up in this situation. So here we have the trail that's waterlogged, as you can see. And then to its left, you can see a secondary trail over here. And then there's a third secondary trail, if you can have such a thing here. Now, in the Arctic, these are going to last forever. And what happens when this trail in a couple of years is compacted and becomes waterlogged? Well, then we're going to have a third trail over here, and it just keeps moving. And so help us protect our environment, help us protect our vegetation, help us protect the wilderness for the wildlife, and stick with the trail, even if it's wet, even if it's muddy. And I think this is the last one on this, and then I'll be a little less negative. Please be considerate of others. It's surprising how many complaints we get about the behavior of other hikers when it comes to the peace and the solitude. So two of the highlights of the trail for almost all hikers are the peace and the solitude. So as you're hiking and when you're at camp, be respectful of other people's desires for peace and solitude. When you're on the trail, don't play music. Even when you're at camp, don't play music. And if you see somebody camped here like this, alone, then, don't come and camp right next to them. Especially if you've got a larger group. Give people space. It's a big wilderness out there. Give people space. Don't camp on top of somebody else when you haven't been invited there. Obviously, around the huts, there are a lot more people camping, and that's fine. That is expected. But if you're, a little apart, don't just come and plop your tent right down next to them. The other thing also is that the huts are first in, first served, and they cannot be reserved for a group by somebody else running ahead. So this has happened every year, and every year we hear about it. And so, please just be respectful of everybody. Everybody knows that the huts are first in, first served. If you want to get into a hut, then leave early in the morning. Don't sort of, hoard things and do that kind of thing. All right. I promise to be more positive now. So again, those of you who've been around for a couple of years know that we have asked you previously to call into the canoe centre and fill out a form in the canoe centre so that we can count the number of Arctic Circle Trail users. And this year, having done that now for the past 2 years, this year I decided that I wanted to try to do it online instead of with these paper forms in the canoe centre, because a lot of people seem to miss that whole canoe centre thing. So now from the front page, there is a section in the prepare section that says register your trip. And that will take you to a Google form, everything's Google Forms, which now replaces that form that was in the canoe centre. Please note, even though it's called a registration, and we do require, we are really asking you to do it, registering does not mean that we are tracking you or will come looking for you if something goes wrong. You are fully responsible for your own safety, navigation, and emergency planning. So even though we're asking you to register, all this is doing is it's telling us how many people are doing the trail and when. That's it. This does not mean that we are going to come looking for you. So just keep that in mind, because I know that some people might associate registration with that service. That is not what we're offering. And the reason I want to try to do this online this year is that in 2023, the physical pieces of paper that I counted was 762, and this year it was 706. But from talking to the tour operators in Sisimiut and Kangerlussuaq and just what we see around town and things, the estimate is more like 1,200 people. So only about, a little over half of people are filling in this form when it's in the canoe centre. So this year, I hope that by having it on the front page and by getting people to do it online, we can get a more accurate count. So what I would ask you to do is that once you've confirmed your trip, and you've got the tickets booked and everything like that. So once it's pretty much 100% confirmed, please go on and each person should fill out this form. So if you're hiking with 3 friends, then each of you should come in and fill out this form. You don't need to give us your email address. That's optional. If you do give us your email address, then I will email you later once I've analyzed it, the results of this number count and our reports, and very occasionally you'll hear from me if you give me your email address, but you don't have to. But what we need is the numbers. So please, if you are hiking with a group of friends, please make sure that everybody in that group actually fills one of these out. Okay, so then another new thing on the website is this interactive trail map. So this is in the plan section on the front page, and I got super excited about this. So this is the new interactive map. Again, it's from the website. There's a little bit of how to use it here, but essentially, when you scroll down, you'll see the thing here. If you scroll in or zoom in, you'll start to see the trail sort of come to life. So here, if we start in Kangerlussuaq, you can see this extension trail is the Ice Ridge Trail. Here's the Kangerlussuaq Ridge Trail. And here's the first stage of the Arctic Circle Trail. There's a lot of information here. So for example, if I click on the first stage of the Arctic Circle Trail, you'll see some information about that stage. So it gives you the basic information plus a little bit of a description. And you'll get that for each different stage. So you just click on that and it will give you that information. If you want information about the hut, do the same thing. Click on the hut and then it'll give you the information, and then it will give you a link to where you can find more information on the website. Through here, you'll see that each stage has a rough number of how many kilometers it is between. Here at the Canoe Centre, I just want to point something out, and I'll come back to this in a second. Please do not paddle the canoes past the Canoe Centre, to the west of the Canoe Centre. This area here is really, really shallow and rocky, and many of the canoes have sustained damage because people paddle them into this area here. Please leave all canoes at the Canoe Centre. Every year we find a whole bunch at the very, very far end of the lake, and that's damaging the canoes, and it also means people don't find them. So just a heads up on that. The other thing that's here is you'll see these crosses. So another new page on the website are access points. So if you only want to walk part of the trail, this is how you can plan that. So it'll have, this is an access point for self-rescue. So if you need to self-rescue off the trail, so that's if you have an injury, but you can get to one of these exit points, then you should self-rescue. You should only call for search and rescue with the SOS beacon type thing if you cannot move or if you're in extreme danger. So there are several of these along the trail, and it gives you links through to tourism providers with whom you can arrange to get picked up at this point. So I really strongly encourage you to read the search and rescue page on the website, because it explains more about what is an emergency, and then what should be self-rescue, and then how one goes about managing that whole situation. So here's one here at Kangerlussuaq. Here's one here at Safangwit if you're doing the southern route. And again, here in Sisimiut, this is an alternate route into Sisimiut, the Oqummiannguaq Trail, and it links off to more information about it down here on the website. So this, I think this is super cool, and I'm very, very grateful to Alex for making this for me. It's just fantastic. So have a play, have an explore. So I mentioned canoes. Again, please don't paddle west of the Canoe Centre because it damages the canoes. There are 8 canoes. When I went across the Arctic Circle Trail last week, 7 of them were at the Canoe Centre. There were none at Katafik, and there was one halfway along the lake below that very tall cairn. And I'm not sure, I still don't know where the 8th one is. There should be an 8th one. So please don't paddle west of the Canoe Centre. And again, similar to the huts, the canoes are available on a first in best dress basis, and they're available to whoever is ready to leave. So you can't reserve them by putting your gear in them. Whoever is ready to depart gets the canoe, basically. So just keep that in mind. The huts and the canoes are limited resources on the trail, so everybody has to play nicely. And again, don't paddle in here, please. All right, an update on the ATV track and the Arctic Circle Road. So the Arctic Circle Road is still non-existent. The ATV track, however, is open from Kangerlussuaq to approximately Kangerlussuaq. So that eastern end of it is open. How much traffic there is along there is still not much. And that particular portion, once you get past the first couple of kilometers, completely diverges from the Arctic Circle Trail anyway, so it doesn't matter. Keep an eye out for the signs. There are 2 wooden signs at Kellyville and where the Arctic Circle Trail goes off from the ATV track, directing you onto the trail. I know that there were some people who missed them last year, so just keep an eye out for those. And keep an eye on your map and your GPS. The section between Sisimiut and the first fjord, or Kangerlussuaq, will be open in 2025. Exact date, I don't know, but that's that last day into Sisimiut. That will have traffic on it. And when it's first open, I suspect it will have quite a lot of traffic on it because it's new and people are very, very keen for this. It's been a long time waiting. So between Sisimiut and the first fjord, that last day, I expect that when it's open, there will be quite a bit, and by quite a bit of traffic, I mean by Greenlandic standards. So it's not a highway, but you will encounter some ATVs, I'm certain. I don't have a date exactly. And one way of eliminating part of it, and again, it doesn't overlap completely. So there will be times when you're not on the same route. But one way is that Oqummiannguaq trail into Sisimiut. That's one way of bypassing the last little bit of it. The southern route, I went out with a group of local volunteers last year to place these poles along the southern route to try to improve the navigation along there. It's still not well marked. Unfortunately, I mean, these poles help, but they don't bring the navigation level up to anywhere near what the original trail or the northern route is at. So, unless you have a lot of experience navigating in the backcountry and you have very strong navigation skills, please stick with the northern route. The southern route, it's there, it is marked, but not very well. This is only for expert hikers. Please don't overstretch yourself. And just quickly, a couple of the other trails. So these are some of the extension trails. We have the Ice Ridge Trail that runs from Russell Glacier, which is technically the ice cap, Russell Glacier to Kangerlussuaq. This is a really beautiful trail. It's quite challenging, but it is a really beautiful trail if you want to hike from Russell Glacier to Kangerlussuaq and not along the road. It also joins with the Kangerlussuaq Ridge Trail, which we marked last year. So this runs from Kangerlussuaq to the road that leads up to Kellyville. I will be remarking both of these trails this year with paint that lasts a bit longer than the one I used last year, but they're a nice option than simply walking along the road. Between where the Kangerlussuaq Ridge Trail joins back onto the road and Kellyville, you've got maybe 2 kilometers there where you've got to walk along the road. But otherwise, if you do these 2 trails, you can walk all the way from the ice cap to the ocean, basically avoiding roads. The Kangerlussuaq Ridge Trail also, it's a nice one if you want to start at Kellyville, but you want to do a day hike beforehand. There is a down and like an exit point halfway along, which turns it into a day loop hike as well. And you can find out more information about these trails and all of our day hikes in Sisimiut and Kangerlussuaq Untitled on hiking.gl. And then I've mentioned before the Oqummiannguaq trail coming into Sisimiut just to get you off that ATV track because in this part of the trail, you are pretty much following the ATV track. Okay, after your hike, again, I said earlier that you're not finished. After your hike, we would dearly love for you to just help us out with a few things. Number one is to give us your feedback. The more feedback we get, the better we can manage the trail, basically. I have my opinion, but I'm one person. It would be ideal if we could hear from all 1,200 of you, potentially, who are hiking the trail this year, to let us know what you thought of the trail and how we can improve it and what works well as well. It's nice to hear good things as well. So every year I write a report. Last year's report, I think, came to 55 pages. So I don't subject too many people to that. But one of the key things from it are the recommendations. So last year's recommendations drawn from all the information I collected last year. So these are the recommendations for this year. So we've started already, so reviewing the signage in the huts and reaching out to all of the commercial groups running tours. I've done those 2 things. By the way, if you are wanting to join a commercially guided tour, please read the guided groups page on the website and make sure that whoever you're going with is complying with the regulations. Remove the oil drums and bins from all the huts. I mentioned this before. I'm still trying to get this to happen, but again, all I can do is request it. I don't have the capacity to make it happen, so I'm still trying. Continue to promote the opportunity to donate. So I'm currently applying for permission to accept donations. So hopefully that'll come through soon, and we can start accepting donations from June 1st. The big one is to construct a new bridge over the Untitled River. If you've been around for a few years, you know that the old bridge basically got almost washed away 2 years ago. And so this year we are replacing it with a new bridge that will be very close to the actual trail. The old bridge was about 4 kilometers away from it, which was not helpful. This new bridge will be actually quite close, and I'll be updating the website with exactly where that is located once it's actually gone in. So we don't release the full report broadly. We do release infographics which summarize the outcomes of it, and I post those in the Facebook group, and I think I also posted them to the website this year as well. And if you do give us your email in any of these opportunities on the web to do so, then this is one of the things that you'll be receiving. But without your feedback, I can't do any of this. Your feedback is the most important aspect of this whole thing, because we want to not develop the trail, but at least try to manage the trail according to the wishes of the hikers. Again, donate. I can't say it often enough. You saw on the first or the second slide that I'm very, very grateful to those who have donated in the last 2 years, but it doesn't take much to use that money up. So if you can spare some money after you finish the trail, and if you would like to contribute to its upkeep, then we very much appreciate that. The other thing is we're running our photo competition again this year. This is something else we've been doing for the past couple of years, and we welcome all photographs. So it would be great. We want to see your trip through your eyes, and this is pretty much the only way we can do it. So on the website there is a section for the photography competition that gives you all the details and all the rest of it. So jump on there, and we are interested in winter photographs as well as summer photographs. So if even though you're here on the summer webinar, if you're doing it in winter, we'd love to see that as well. And then we often get asked what to do before and after the hike. So one of the difficulties, I guess, with the Arctic Circle Trail that we have here from a promotional perspective locally is that there is a perception that long distance hikers and the hikers of the Arctic Circle Trail, they don't spend any money locally. I know that a lot of people bring their food with them. Obviously we have very limited camping and equipment here that you can buy. So we really strongly encourage you to try to make it so that you have at least a couple of days on either end of your hike in this region. I know everybody wants to go to Ilulissat, but Ilulissat doesn't care about the Arctic Circle Trail. If you want to support the local community and the Arctic Circle Trail, then we really need you to stick around in Sisimiut and Kangerlussuaq. And there's loads of stuff to do. It's both of them are fantastic destinations in their own right, and you can find out lots more about what to do. It has links to all of the different destinations. It has links to all the tour operators. It has links to all of the different types of activities that are available as well. So please consider spending at least a couple of days at either end, more if you can, but at least a couple of days at either end to, give back to the community directly through, accommodation, meals, buying souvenirs, doing tours with the tour operators, etc. Right, that's it. So when will the new bridge be built at the Untitled River? Our plan is, or the hope is, that it will be built ASAP as soon as we can get in there. So basically, we need to wait for the ice to melt so that we can sail the spans in. The carpenter is very, very, very aware that this is urgent. And so as soon as he can get the materials in there, we will be starting it. I'm hoping, very much hoping, that it will be in place at least by mid-July. So ideally it would be there at the start of June when the snowmelt is the largest and the river is at its highest usually. but you know, we also need to be able to get the stuff in there. So as soon as possible. What is the typical canoe availability? It depends. If you're hiking from Sisimiut, it's pretty good because most people hike Kangerlussuaq to Sisimiut. You're more often going to have a miss if you're hiking that direction. If you're starting in Sisimiut and going back to Kangerlussuaq, then you're more likely to get a canoe because all the canoes are at the canoe center. Can I predict what will be the situation on the trail after this warmer winter? Do you think it will be as wet as in recent years? I hope not. To be honest, last year was pretty good. The year before was absolutely terrible, but last year was pretty good. This is I have a science background, but my kind of unscientific suspicion of what happened last year is that because it was so wet the year before, the ground has soaked up a lot of that water, but you know, underneath the ground layer, there's permafrost. So that water can't actually escape. So it's still very wet, even though it didn't rain as much last year. At this point, look, it's completely impossible to predict what the weather and the climate is going to do. You know, this winter has been insane. For me personally, I'm desperately hoping that it's another nice, fine summer, but unfortunately, we can't make any predictions these days about the winter. It's plus 6 degrees Celsius out there today. It's meant to be, you know, -10, -15. Drinking water resources. Should it be filtered through special filters? It really depends on your level of risk. Locals don't filter the water. We just drink it straight from the rivers and from the lakes. However, you will have seen me go on and on about this toilet paper issue and stuff like that. So as we get more and more people on the trail, and as some of those people are not complying or adhering to, you know, do your business away from water sources, you know, take your toilet paper out with you, et cetera, there is the possibility that some drinking water supplies are becoming contaminated. Whether it's bad enough to worry about it yet, well, again, locals don't, but if you want to be absolutely certain, then definitely bring a filter. There's plenty of water though, that's not a problem. So you don't need to bring liters and liters of water with you along the trail. I mean, I only ever hike with a 1 liter bottle. Does available fuel from Kangerlussuaq stores run out frequently? No, it doesn't. So this is like one of the most popular things to talk about in the forum every summer. I think a couple of years ago there was an issue because one of the supply ships was delayed. Then that starts to cause problems. But generally, the folk in Kangerlussuaq and in Sisimiut have improved this enormously in the last couple of years. So they have a pretty good supply of fuel. There's no guarantees, is all I'll say. But generally, it's not really a problem so long as you're willing to perhaps go to a few different places in Kangerlussuaq to see. Can you charge electronic equipment along the trail? So there is a solar charging station in the canoe center. It's extremely slow and of course needs to be shared with everybody else. So I think my answer would be, yes, you can, obviously, at the canoe center, but I would suggest that it should just be a top-up and you shouldn't be relying on it. I mentioned that we don't need to pack out our poop. So is it enough that we dig a cat hole? Yes. At this point, we're not requesting that you pack out your poop. We want to get people packing out their toilet paper first. So yes, please dig a cat hole. There is information on the website. If you don't know what that is, or if you don't know how to do that, there's information on the website about how to do it. Please do it at least 100 meters away from any water source and the trail. Don't do it right beside the trail or a water source because that will then contaminate. Not all the huts have a trowel in them, but most of them do. So I strongly encourage you to bring your own trowel so you can dig this cat hole. But if you are at a hut, there is usually a trowel in the hut as well. Is there a time plan to continue the construction work on the ATV track? Yeah, sort of. So as I say, between Sisimiut and Kangerlussuaq this year, that stretch will be open. I don't have a finish date, but it will be open. Between the first fjord and Kangerlussuaq, there's a lot of issues along there. So I have not heard of a concrete time frame for that. I suspect it's sometime in the next couple of years, but I don't have a concrete idea about that. If we want to start at point 660, how can we get there? Do we have to reserve transport, or can we just arrive, buy a ticket and go? And what's the situation with drinking water in this section? Okay, so if you want to start at point 660, have a look on the website. It'll show you which operators provide transportation out there. The best thing to do is join a tour out there, do the tour, because then you get that whole experience, and then just let them know that you will be leaving them at point 660. They're very, very used to people doing that. So yes, it's kind of best if you reserve it in advance. There may be some days where you can't get, things are booked up. So everything is always best reserved in advance. What's the situation with drinking water in this section? To be honest, I've not actually hiked from point 660 to Russell Glacier. I know there are some lakes there, but I don't have a lot of experience with that particular section. If you start at Russell Glacier and you want to camp at Russell Glacier, there is no water at Russell Glacier because it's all glacial water and you can't drink that. Where you go off the road to go across the hill to Russell Glacier, you need to refill your water bottles and everything there. If you take the Ice Ridge Trail back, then there's no problem with water. If you take the road back, you probably want to really fill up a few liters before you do the road. Fishing on the Arctic Circle Trail. Is it favourable to walk the southern route for the best possible Arctic char fishing opportunities, or do the small lakes and rivers contain Arctic char? I've yet to hear exactly where the Arctic char is. I don't think it actually makes any difference whether you're on the southern route or the northern route as far as Arctic char goes. I think it's just luck of the draw. I mean, I don't think you should rely on being able to catch Arctic char for your dinner. That I would definitely not recommend, no matter what route you're doing. And only some lakes have it, and I haven't been able to pinpoint accurately which lakes those are. As for navigating, can we use hiking apps like Komoot or All Trails? I can bring many power banks with me. Yes, you can navigate with apps. A lot of people do. I would suggest making sure you have the GPX routes from the website, because they are the most up-to-date ones. And I would also recommend that you have like a physical map, because, okay, you might have plenty of power banks, but what happens if you drop your phone or something like that? You should always have two separate types of navigation, never rely on just one. Now that most international air is going to Nuuk, how will that impact the local community in Kangerlussuaq, thinking shops availability? This is a very good question and one I don't have an answer to. So everybody is aware that the Arctic Circle Trail is one of the key draw cards for not only this region, but for Greenland in general. And I'm sure that the local community in Kangerlussuaq is planning to have as many hikers as what they have had in previous years. So I think that they're equipped, but I'm not, I can't give you a definitive answer. It's a good question though. Is it possible to buy any flares in Kanga? Probably not. If you are really worried about that, then I would suggest contacting Kang Mini Market and asking them if they can get some in for you. We've ordered physical maps of Kangerlussuaq, Pingu, Sushimia to navigate the trail. Are there other physical resources that you recommend for navigation? No, that's kind of all there is. I mean, Paddy Dillon's book, as I say, is now quite out of date, but it gives you a description of the trail. But really, those three maps are the navigation. I'm hoping that I can make some higher resolution maps this year for the trail specifically, but they're not going to be ready in time for summer. Do you have safety recommendations when using the canoe? Have a read of the canoe page on the website. It goes through all of that. There is life jackets in the canoes, so please do wear them. And when you're finished with it, make sure that they are attached securely under the canoe, or take them into the hut. Don't just leave them kind of lying around. Is there a place where to leave some stuff that we don't need while hiking but could be useful while flying? Yep. So again, on the website, there's a section there about what to do with your stuff. You can leave it in Kangerlussuaq, especially this is easy if you're staying. If you're staying in Kangerlussuaq and then returning to Kangerlussuaq, or you can send it to Sisimiut. Late last year, there was talks about a maintenance fee. Any updates on that? So no, we still desperately need it, but we still don't have any way of introducing it. So that's why I'm pushing the donations. Are there still helicopter tours in Kangerlussuaq to see the ice sheet from above? Yes, air safari, not helicopter tours, but plane tours. Air safari. Go on to destinationarcticcircle.com and you will find their details there. How often are flights delayed in Kangerlussuaq and Sisimiut? Well, Sisimiut, it's not it's everything is fairly uncommon in summer, but again, it's impossible to know. So if you're flying direct from Copenhagen or flying to Copenhagen and you're in Kangerlussuaq, you will almost never be delayed. Kangerlussuaq has the most stable weather in all of Greenland, and that's why the airport was there. So there are very, very, very few delays between Kangerlussuaq and other places. Where the delays originate is on the coast. The problem is Air Greenland has a limited number of planes, and so most planes are coming from somewhere else to Kangerlussuaq. And so while Kangerlussuaq might be fine, maybe the plane is stuck in Nuuk. That's the problem now. And because they've now moved the main airport to Nuuk, then that has impacted the entire network. It's more common to be delayed out of Sisimiut. Again, it's not that common in summer, but it does happen. Anything on the coast, there's a possibility of delays. Always build in a contingency if you can. So for example, I'm going home to Australia to visit mum and dad next week, and I have 3 days in Copenhagen that I don't particularly want, but just to make sure that in case there are delays here in Greenland, I can still make my flight to Australia. Is there a very dangerous steep climbing part along the trail? Not really. There are a couple of steep places. There's one I can think of in particular, which is a bit of a scramble. So not on the northern route. On the southern route, yes. Yes, there are. Do you have quick tips or resources we could read as to how to interact with the locals in Nuuk, Sisimiut and Kangerlussuaq so as not to risk offending? Not really. I mean, it's kind of just common sense. I mean, Greenlanders are just like anybody else. So, don't take photos without permission of people. Don't stare into people's houses. I mean, these are the types of issues we have with cruise guests, for example, that come. You'll find Greenlanders are very, very friendly people, and particularly in Kangerlussuaq, actually. They're very, very friendly. They're happy to see you. They will help you if you need help. Just use your common sense. Treat them like a human being, and you'll be fine. There's nothing per se that is taboo, for example, that you need to be aware of. If you want to read more, then I would recommend going on to Visit Greenland's website. They have a lot more information about the cultural aspects of Greenland on there. How necessary is it to book accommodation in advance in the destination city? Do they get fully booked often? They can. So summer here in Sisimiut, for example, is big for two things: the Arctic Circle Trail and fly fishing. And there are a lot of fly fishers. So I recommend that you book in advance. I mean, it's not, you may be fine, but I can't guarantee it. So if you need the accommodation or if you have a very specific place you want to stay, then book it in advance. Do you recommend crampons on the ice shield? If yes, we'll bring ours. Is there a local renting service? So if you go on one of the tours, it depends on which tour you go on. If you go on the short tour, so the 5-hour tour with Albatross, then they have a very specific route they take you and you don't need anything. You'll just walk on the ice for a little bit. If you do the full day trip on the ice with Albatross, they will give you crampons. If you go with Arctic Ice Tours, then they have not full crampons, but sort of crampons that they will give you, and they and that's a shorter tour as well. So you shouldn't need to bring your crampons, basically. What types of clothes would you recommend us to wear in autumn along the trek? Hard shell or down jacket or lighter? So starting in September, it gets very cold. So you have to be prepared for snow. You have to be prepared for warmth. Basically, layers. I mean, everything is about layers. And that's true whether you're doing it in June, July, August, or September. But in September, it starts to get very, very cold. So you need to be prepared for that. July, August, June is kind of milder, but it still may hit 0 degrees Celsius. Okay, the ferry from Sisimiut to Ilulissat, is it common for the trip to be cancelled or delayed? No, it's not common. It has happened, but it's not common. Again, it depends on the weather, and the weather is becoming increasingly unpredictable, unfortunately. Tent recommendation. Is our lightweight AMSR, Big Agnes, etc. tent sufficient, or should we get a sturdy 4-season tent? I would say a minimum three-season tent, for sure. You don't necessarily need a 4-season tent unless you're planning on coming in September or October. Don't recommend October. It should be fine, but again, there are so many different not brands, but styles and stuff like that. It depends on exactly which one you have. Just have one that is at least 3-season and can withstand wind. That's kind of the main things. It's no good having one of these lightweight teepee type things if it's going to blow away if the wind picks up. Will it be muddy in mid-June? Most likely, yes. It's muddy all the time. So most likely, and mid-June in particular, yes, because that's when all the snow melts. That is the wettest time of year to be doing the trail as far as ground wetness goes. In Kangerlussuaq, I spoke with the airport staff. Is there a way to leave a small backpack for 10 days while I'm on my trip? If you are staying in Kangerlussuaq before and after, then leave it at your accommodation. If you are not staying in Kangerlussuaq, then you can try for one of the lockers in the airport. It does say technically they're only available for 24 hours at a time, but I've heard rumors that that's not the case and all this sort of stuff. Again, I strongly encourage people to spend extra days in Kangerlussuaq and Sisimiut to support the local area, to take advantage of the fact that you've spent all this money to get to Greenland. You've done the expensive bit. Spend a couple extra days in each place, and then you don't have a problem leaving backpacks if you go back to the same accommodation. Will there be any other big rivers apart from Ittinik to cross? That depends on how much it rains. So Ittinik is by far the deepest river you'll come to, and that will have a bridge. Usually you can just ford it. Usually it's not such a big problem. It was only 2 years ago that we had a massive problem with it. But with the new bridge, that will be fine. There are at least 3 other large rivers. They're not as deep, but they can be fast flowing, especially if there is a lot of rain or if you do it early in the season. So yes, you have to know how to safely ford a fairly decent river. And that is actually one of the questions in the self-assessment. Again, have a look on the website. I think we have some pictures there as well. But yeah, you need to know how to cross rivers properly. Did anyone have any last minute questions? Of course, you are welcome to email us at act@acb.gl, or if you just go onto the website, you'll see it all over the website. Please, please, please read the website. There is a huge amount of information on there, and I didn't write it for my own health. I wrote it for your health. So please read it. Please do the small things we ask you to do. So register your hike, do the self-assessment before you plan anything. And then if you do the hike afterwards, at least give us feedback. And if you can manage it, then a donation would be very, very welcome.